Hello, and welcome to Inventors Helping Inventors. I'm your host, Alan Beckley, inventor of the Wonder Wallet. If you're an inventor searching for proven ways to make money with your invention, if you dream to see your product selling in stores everywhere, you've come to the right place. There's no better place to get help than from experts, inventors who've already achieved success. Every week, I interview successful inventors, asking them the questions you want to know. Tune in to learn from the experts so you can get your invention out of the tank and into the bank.
The most powerful aspect of daycares is that they're a perpetual source of illness. The children are always getting sick there. There's diseases such as hand, foot, and mouth disease, strep, pink eye, flu, all your favorites there.
If you're loving listening to the Inventors Helping Inventors podcast each week, I'd like to ask a big favor of you. Don't keep it a secret. Tell other inventors about the podcast and why you enjoy it and how they will too. And I have a small request, and that is, can you do a rating and review in iTunes? It helps the podcast immensely. Now, unfortunately, Apple doesn't make it easy. So I'm going to give you the 6 steps so you can write a rating and review for the podcast. And I will be eternally grateful if you can do this for me. It helps it a lot. So first, go to iTunes. And then in the upper left-hand corner, there's a little drop-down arrow box. It's probably going to default to music. Do the drop-down arrow and select podcasts, because that gets you to Apple Podcast. Next, do a search. On the right hand at the top, there's a little search box, and search on Inventors Helping Inventors. And that'll pull up the Inventors Helping Inventors podcast. And then you'll see on the upper left-hand side, right under the word podcast, will be the little square tag with Inventors Helping Inventors and the bright light bulb icon in the dark background. Please click on that light bulb. And when you click on that, that's going to bring you to where you need to be. Right below there is the subscribe button. Please click on subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and you'll get every new episode as soon as it comes out. Next, just to the right of the Inventors Helping Inventors light bulb icon, you'll see the ratings and review tag. Please click on that. And then right below that, there's a place where you can click to rate. Hopefully give it 5 stars if you like it a lot. And then also there's a little button that says write a review. Finally, just take a couple of moments to write a review for the podcast. As I mentioned, it helps the podcast immensely and makes it more discoverable and easy for other inventors to find. And when you do, just send me a quick note at alan@alanbeckley.com and say, I rated and reviewed. Really would appreciate it. And it'll help the podcast to continue to grow, and to draw other listeners. Thanks a lot for your help. Einstein said that insanity is continuing to do the same thing, but expecting different results. If you're anything like most inventors, like I used to be, plodding away, trying to make money from your invention with no luck, you could be in the insanity loop. How's that working out for you? For over 2 years now, I've helped inventors to achieve real results and to achieve them more quickly through my premier training event, the Inventors Bootcamp. What is it? When is it? And how do you sign up? The Inventors Bootcamp is 5 days of live interactive Zoom meetings. Monday, April 15th through Friday, April 19th. Each night at 7 p.m. Eastern. It teaches you precisely how to create a clear, concise marketing message. Your total investment for the whole week is only $47. The next Inventors Bootcamp starts very soon, Monday, April 15th. Enrollment is open now just go to www.alanbeckley.com/bootcamp. Many podcast listeners, just like you, have joined the Inventors Bootcamp. Is it producing results for them? Here are just a few examples. Rhonda is starting manufacturing and about to do her first Kickstarter campaign. Michelle negotiated with companies interested in licensing her product. Julietta is testing her face mapper invention with children and adult artists now. Skeptical? I can give you their contact information and you can talk to them. If you're ready to end the no results insanity, register now at www.alanbeckley.com/bootcamp to save your seat at the April Bootcamp. Register by March 29th, and you'll get your choice of a free business strategy book from authors including James Clear and Seth Godin, an early bird incentive. Again, just register at www.alanbeckley.com/bootcamp, and we'll see you in the April Bootcamp. Welcome to episode number 392. Today, I interview, once again, Duncan Ashworth. Duncan Ashworth grew up in Shreveport, Louisiana, and later moved to Nacogdoches, where he enjoyed running track. After high school, he got a degree in electrical engineering from the University of Texas at Austin, with a focus on semiconductors. He retired from the semiconductor industry in 2019 after 41 years in order to pursue his passion for building robots. Shortly after retiring, the pandemic hit, and he focused his efforts on developing a robot utilizing ultraviolet light to fight coronavirus and other pathogens. He is the sole inventor of the SaniBot robot and founder of Floorbotics, located in Austin, Texas. You'll want to listen to this entire interview as Duncan shares why daycare centers have three key aspects that make them the perfect market for the SaniBot. Also, how daycare owners can get ROI on a SaniBot within 3 to 6 months with only one new student. And finally, learn the process he followed that you can use to find a local company to manufacture his robots for him. Now, let's get right to our interview with Duncan Ashworth. Duncan Ashworth, it's a pleasure to have you back on the podcast with us again today.
Thank you, Alan. It's a real pleasure to be back on the podcast.
Duncan, we first interviewed you on the podcast back in May of 2023 in episode number 306. For listeners who've not listened to that episode, you may wish to pause this episode and listen to that one first. I've known you for over a year now, Duncan, and worked with you along your invention journey as you've participated in one of our Inventors Boot Camps, as well as having done some coaching with me. You invented SaniBot, a robot that sanitizes floors using ultraviolet light, and you're also the founder of your company, Roomba-like, and you have several investors on board. Several prototypes have been built, and when we last spoke, you were working to identify the key markets for the robot. Duncan, can you update our listeners on your progress over the last 9 months since May of last year? What's happened since then, and have you pivoted your strategy in any way? And also, what would you say has been your biggest surprise or maybe epiphany that you've learned along this journey thus far? Can you share that with our listeners?
Certainly, Alan. It's been a very interesting journey because it was a solution for sanitizing floors, as you mentioned. And so that opens up a whole world of possibilities. There were surgical centers, gymnasiums, assisted living facilities. And I talked to owners of all these different types of companies, and they all didn't pan out for one reason or another. To give you an example, with assisted living, they said that they have people walking around all day and all night, and the robot could cause a tripping hazard. Okay, so that kind of ruled that out. The surgical centers said that they have a surgical cleaning crew come in between each surgery, so they've never had a problem. So there's really not a baseline to improve from because they've never had any sort of what's called healthcare acquired infection. what happened is on the list of companies to talk to was what about daycare facilities? And that just turned out to be the market to go after.
Duncan, when you first started using the SaniBot in daycare centers, what were some key aspects that made you see that daycares were an almost perfect market for you? Can you describe the business case for rental or purchase of a SaniBot for them? And what makes the SaniBot such a great deal for them? Can you share some of those aspects with us?
Certainly, the most powerful aspect of daycares is that they're a perpetual source of illness. The children are always getting sick there. There's diseases such as hand, foot, and mouth disease, strep, pink eye, flu, all your favorites there. And not only did the kids get sick, but the staff can get sick and you have to miss work, the staff at the daycare. The kids can take it home and maybe the family gets sick, siblings get sick, the parents can get sick. And I know a lot of these cases very firsthand. And if the parents get sick, they may have to take vacation days or take sick days. And anyway, there's just a huge ripple effect from daycare. So that's the pivotal moment where I go, this is the target to go after. It's a huge market and there's no shortage of illness.
And maybe you could expand just a bit on that. In other words, when you look at, I think you'd shared with me before what a typical daycare charges their students and how that maps in so nice for the SaniBot. And also, I think you've chatted before about there's options for both rental and purchase. And then again, just expand just a little bit more on what makes that such a great deal for them. On top of all the description you clearly described about the illness that they have to deal with that causes their staff to be out, has kids to be sick, and parents get sick and they miss work. And it just causes a real challenge there. But if you could speak a little bit to the business case, in a manner of speaking, the dollars and cents, why it actually makes a great deal of business sense for these daycare centers to work with you and SaniBot. Can you share that with us a little bit?
Yes, one of the key things I learned from your boot camp is that a product and its features are nice, but if you can explain the benefits of having your product, your invention, and the ROI to the consumer, that you've really got a winner there. And that's why we have such a good winner with SaniBot. First off, going through the business case, putting a child in daycare runs from $1,200 to almost $2,000 a month. And the cost is going up about 8% annually. So daycare is a big and growing business. And so the ROI for the daycare is that if you can attract just one more kid into your enrollment, the robot will pay for itself within a few months. And so if your daycare has a SaniBot and a competing daycare does not have a SaniBot, you're more likely to get the business. So there are many options that, as you mentioned, having subscription based or rent to own, maybe just leasing the robot type of purchase. And I've found interest in all these different models. It just varies from daycare to daycare. But attended a couple of daycare conferences and have these numbers confirmed, both the costs to the daycare, the perpetual outbreak of diseases, and the method of improving the finances to the daycares. Most daycares are about 75 to 85% loaded. In other words, their allowed limit is much higher than what they currently have. So since the overhead is fixed, the staff, the building, property tax, utilities, and all that is pretty well fixed. Every time you add just one more child to the daycare enrollment, it pretty well drops to the bottom line. So it's a very easy business case to convey.
I'd like to just share several of the key points that you made there for our audience. And the first one that just jumps out at me is anytime a business looks at investing in something, whether it's buying a piece of equipment or leasing or renting it, they're going to look at the return on investment case. How long is it going to take us to break even or actually make profit off having done this expenditure? And as you made really clear, with students paying $1,200 to $2,000, even if, as I understand it, even if they choose to purchase the robot outright in something like less than 3 months, I believe, if that's correct, they will have recovered that expense just from that single student joining. And with them being able to describe to the daycare center, oh, by the way, every night we sanitize these floors to keep kids safe as well as parents, et cetera, then the odds of getting more than one student a month is probably actually quite good. So that's, to me, from everything you and I've shared, that's what makes the ROI case so compelling for them, either for renting or choosing to buy it. And then, as you described, occupancy tends to be 75 to 85%. And they certainly have room to increase their occupancy, and they have a lot of fixed costs that they can't really reduce a lot. Having more revenues from more students is a big plus for them and their profit line. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. So the payback for a quick one, like the ones that are almost $2,000 a month, would be just a matter of a few months. And for the daycares that don't cost so much, the ROI would break even at around 6 months. So it's a very quick payback to have the robot by attracting another child. The other thing I've found in my interviews is that as opposed to assisted living where there's kind of foot traffic 24/7, the daycares close at night. And so the model that they've been using, and I've had several field trials done, there's one in progress right now, is that at the end of the day, before they lock up, so the children have been picked up, they're gone. You put the robot on the floor and hit the start button and let it do its thing overnight when there's nobody there. And then in the morning, you pick it up and put it back on the charger. So it's extremely easy to use. There's no setup required. It's just a no-brainer. It's very easy to use. No is really important. It's not complicated. There's no setup. There's no app that you have to download on your phone. Just put it down, get going, go home.
You make so many great points there, and I'm not going to try to hit on all of them, but one that I would say, first of all, that kind of return on investment is a winner, as you just described, especially even less than 6 months, because so many businesses will look at it as successful if they get a return on investment within a year. So 3 to 6 months in a business that has a lot of fixed costs that they want to offset some of those fixed costs by having more students, that's just a winner. And as you mentioned, doing field trials. And I also like what Ron Popeil liked to say, set it and forget it. And that is the way this product can work, the way you described it to me, because nobody's there at night. You can set it in a room, and it automatically, much like a Roomba, it automatically will go through the entire room and take care of the floors and sanitize the floors. And next morning they can charge it up for the next night. Is that correct?
That certainly is. In fact, another slogan that I like is, I'm paraphrasing here and adopting it to the robot, but this robot doesn't cost money, it makes money. So that's a different way of looking at it.
That's a great one. I want to go to speak a little bit to the future case now. You've been manufacturing SaniBots yourself, but are now looking to have a local manufacturer build them for you. I'd really like to ask you, how did you find a manufacturer, and how is that process going for you? And also, do you plan to venture the SaniBot going forward primarily, or are you looking ultimately to license your product? Can you share some of that with us?
Yes. Up until the end of last year, I built the prototypes myself and then realized that I really need to have somebody else build some of these prototypes. So we did a test run in finding a local manufacturer that does prototypes. And that's what they focus on, is doing that initial step build before things go into volume manufacturing. They don't do high volume manufacturing. But I just started off like most things and Googled it, contract manufacturers near me, and got a bunch of it's really not for us. We do more telecom equipment, or we do certain areas of just licensed medical equipment, that sort of thing. But and every one of them said, but you may go try these people. You may go try these. So eventually I found a company here in Austin. They did a wonderful job building it. I gave them a set of assembly instructions to make sure that the assembly instructions could be followed by a third party like them. They built it. And so that helped because even though I don't intend on going to volume manufacturing myself, I think it's good to have another company that can build the prototypes. And it's also important at this stage to find somebody local. So I could go drop in, answer questions that they had, that sort of thing. So I'd recommend anyone, if they're having prototypes made, start off as local as you can. The next stage of this journey, as you were asking, is to find a company that's already in the ultraviolet light equipment business. And there are a handful in the world that do their own UV equipment, primarily with HVAC, maybe water purification, and see if they wanted to add this to their product line. And it's actually very easy to justify to the companies, even at prototype quantities, because the selling price for the robot is a very good margin on top of just manufacturing them, even at prototype levels. So it's pretty much win all the way. The daycare centers make a profit because they've got in children. The UV equipment companies make more because they've got a new product line that they can add to their HVAC and other things. I think it's a very strong case for the robot, business wise.
Again, thanks for sharing that. And one thing I would like to highlight out of that is listeners are thinking, oh my gosh, how can you have anything manufactured in the US? If you've got a product that has really good profit margins, that gives you so much more to work with and it gives you so many more options. And so that's a win for you and for this product because you're in the Austin area, you can find a manufacturer there locally. So I think that's a great circumstance. And as we just described, overall, the business case for this product is really excellent. As we roll towards a close, I would like to ask you, are there any parting words that you would like to leave us with?
Yep. First of all, I'd like to encourage any other inventors, if you're passionate about it, stay with it. Also, make sure that you have enough financial resources because it's going to be a bumpy road, and make sure that you have staying power financially as well, because so many start off with the best of intentions, actually build a large company, startup company, you call it, and then only to run out. But it's such a journey into the fog that you don't know exactly how things are going to play out. And it's good to keep an open mind as you do talk to different industries, different buyers, different people who may want to license your invention, to keep an open mind, listen to them. Don't be scared. Go out and hit the pavement and talk to folks. Another thing that I found extremely helpful is I attended two daycare conferences, one in September and one recently at the beginning of March. And the conferences were extremely helpful because it was at a daycare conference. I set up a booth, a table and spread, and I had QR codes and little stuffed animal giveaways with QR codes on the back of them. And anyway, it drew a lot of traffic. I learned a lot of numbers, like these daycare numbers, and that was an epiphany of how expensive daycares are. That when I looked at the numbers, I said, my gosh, even at prototype quantities, the robot is going to have a very good manufacturing margin just because of how expensive daycare is. So the whole food chain, economic food chain, made sense all the way back to the prototyping level. So I'd encourage people to also attend trade fairs if you can. And even if you're not presenting, just walk around and you'll learn so much from them as well.
That's fantastic. And I just want to highlight real quickly a point you made that I think our listeners definitely should pay attention to. And that is very often going to a trade show, industry trade show, can be a huge win if you prepare in advance, you know who's going to be there, and you know who could be a potential match for your product, because that allows you to meet with a bunch of people all in one place instead of having to reach out to them individually over a period of weeks, months, or however long. And it gives you credibility. When you are at a trade show and then you reach back to them maybe 2 weeks later and say, "Oh, this is Duncan Ashworth. Hey, I want to follow up with you. We were at the trade show a couple of weeks ago." Now that gives you a much different credibility than somebody who were to cold call them and say, "Hey, I've got this great product, et cetera." They don't know anything about them. Anytime you're at the trade show, that means you're in the industry and somebody who has some credentials. So that's a really big plus in terms of building your contact network. And you've certainly done that successfully.
Thank you very much. I have really enjoyed the trade shows. I realize how perpetual, illnesses are there, how compassionate the daycare owners and directors are with trying to keep as clean of an environment, regardless of the economics. Nobody wants to have sick children around. And for the viewers interested in more details, we have a website, florbotics.com. And that's FLOORBOTICS. And there's some handy videos in there, testimonials. I've had lab testing done on the robot itself. So there is technical credibility to the robot itself. And they have contact information. Anybody that has questions along the way, feel free to contact me.
Thank you so much for that. And you spelled that out very clearly so people would know how to go. Again, it's Florbotics, and you spelled it out.com. And there's videos, there's lab testing, and also contact information so they can reach you. And I'd like to just close by saying thank you so much again for being on the podcast with us and sharing how your journey has evolved in the last 9 months and how you pivoted and found at this point a whole new market segment that's a great one for your product. And I'd like to reserve the opportunity and maybe another 6 months or a year to get back in touch with you and see what you've got going on at that time. So thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you, Ellen. I'd love to be back on sometime. And thanks for all the help through your boot camps and coaching along the way. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you bet. Thanks a lot. So you're done searching for your product and it's not out there. Yay! Maybe you filed for a provisional patent and done some marketing research or surveys. Heck, maybe you've even created a rough prototype, then found that, although it kind of works, it looks like something from the Stone Age. You'd be embarrassed to show it to your friends, much less to a manufacturer for a licensing pitch. What if I could put you in touch with a guy who offers free consultations, takes no money down, no money up front, and will give you a quote on your project before he starts? What if I told you that this same guy can help you design your product and make you a virtual prototype before you ever put a penny into building a physical one? What if I told you he could make you patent drawings, CAD files for manufacturing, and even make marketing videos and build you a website? If this sounds like someone you want to talk to, let me introduce you to my first podcast sponsor, Brian Keast at I Draw Dreams for Inventors. With 3.5 years of trade school and 15 years of mechanical experience working as a mechanic for General Motors, you have someone that's seen countless design failures and how they were fixed. Also, he had a 25-year career as a general contractor who designed his own houses and remodels on computer-aided design. In getting plans through countless building departments, he gained a tremendous amount of experience by working directly with structural engineers. The many years of combined experience in these two careers gave him a unique look into stresses and failures in design. He brings this wealth of knowledge and experience to his company, I Draw Dreams, as the CAD guy who will design a product for you that will work. Every inventor I've referred to Brian has come away delighted with the work he has done for them, and I think you will too. Just make sure to tell them that Alan sent you. Let me ask you 3 questions. Number 1, are you a serious inventor with an invention the market really needs? Question 2, do you have a working prototype you could show for licensing? And question 3, are you patent pending on at least a provisional patent application, a PPA? If you said yes to all 3 of these questions, you might be a perfect fit for my premium coaching program that's driving real results for inventors. If you're interested in exploring the possibilities, see if you might be a fit, just email me at alan@alanbeckley.com. Make sure to put premium coaching in the subject line. Oh, one caveat. There is only one opening I have available over the next 2 months, so it will be first come, first served. Once that slot is filled, it will be at least 2 months before I have another opening available. So don't wait if this looks interesting to you. Again, just reach out to me at alan@alanbeckley.com and in the subject line put premium coaching, and I'll reach out to you to see if premium coaching could be the tonic you've been looking for. Thanks so much for tuning in to Inventors Helping Inventors. If you like the show, please tell your friends about it. Make sure to subscribe in iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts so you won't miss a single episode. Talk to you soon.